Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Brownian Notion. I'm Ananya.
And I'm Gogol. Joining us today is also our lovely producer Anna. Hi Anna, how are you?
Hello. Not feeling great. So this is a special episode, right?
Yeah.
On Thursday, I was feeling quite anxious because of everything that's happening right now in Ukraine.
hmm
So we decided to record an episode about it. Let's see how it goes. This is like uncharted territory for us.
Yeah.
Let's see. So how are you feeling, Deba?
Yeah, I was also very anxious, I think, on Thursday and on Friday as well. I kept watching the news. I couldn't get any work done, but this was kind of on and off, like going on like for a month now. And I think in the back of my head, I had accepted the fact that nothing will come of this, like I kind of thought that this will be resolved peacefully, diplomatically, but it didn't happen. And yeah, it was just so surreal in a very bad way when I woke up and I was like, the first headline was Russia invades Ukraine. And I'm like, wait, what? Uh, is this like a joke or like a parody or something? And then I read the article and I was like, holy shit. And then I didn't get anything done. I couldn't focus on anything. I couldn't, yeah, I don't know. So what we decided was it felt a bit wrong to go ahead with our normal release schedule, and we had a episode planned which was quite chirpy, quite light-hearted. We didn't know if you really should release that because we were not feeling like that at all. And we also wanted to talk a little bit about the stories which are coming out of this crisis right now.
And how are we dealing with that? Maybe give a voice to some of our friends, right? So
Right.
yeah, I managed to reach some people I know, and I felt it was important to them that they could be heard somehow. We have small community, but still, it's out
Right.
there, and especially for people that are from outside of Europe.
hmm
I think, yeah, it would be interesting. Maybe you'll be able to learn something about the politics if you then want to of Europe.
Yeah, a little bit at least.
Yeah, but so first, just some disclaimers that are very important. So we are not journalists, right?
Yeah.
We do not have a deep understanding of all the international political situation that led to this.
Right.
We have some views that we prefer or some ideas, but we prefer to not really go there.
Because we of course have very deep rooted biases, right? No matter how much we try, it will always come through. It will always come through into any opinion that we share. There will be some biases, and we do not want to tell you that that is the right way to think about something. We just want to share some stories, some opinions even. But yeah, please do not take our words as the truth or something.
Yes, try to read as much if you are interested in the topic from diverse
Yeah,
sources. So there is strong propaganda going on from both sides, and we try to be mindful of that.
exactly.
But of course, again, we are not journalists, and we are mostly reporting how we feel, right? So how our friends feel. Just give a voice to the normal people.
So, having said that, would you want to start with where we stand personally
Yeah.
with our biases, with our whatever experiences we have? What are our opinions at this point?
I think first and foremost, we both agree that's wrong to be at a war with the country. So Russia invaded Ukraine. That was not provoked by Ukraine,
Right.
right? So there was no offensive, and there is civilians suffering right now from it. So these some people labeled as one of the most intense bombing since the Second World War.
Right.
It was intense and against civilians.
It is intense. It's still going on.
Yes, it is intense. Yes, yes, it's still intense.
Yeah.
So we are against the outcome. I will say this.
Yeah.
What do you think, Deba? Does this capture your?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. As you said, I think war or use of violence against civilians is never an answer to any question. It cannot be condoned under any circumstances that there is some violence against innocent civilians. But, and this is a but that I'm not very eager to use at this point, but we do understand that there are, as you said, propaganda at play. And it is not that the current situation was not provoked at all by the West. So,
Yeah.
like we were discussing even before recording, what we both think is that there are a lot of provocation that has gone on for at least a decade by the West and specifically by the US, using NATO, using EU, and somehow, unfortunately, Ukraine has been caught in the crossfire, as has been the case with, say, Afghanistan and Syria as well. And we both think that, unfortunately, this is another one of those cases where big superpowers biting off more than they can chew and somehow playing God with normal people. And then
Yeah.
it's just the normal people whose life gets destroyed completely because of this.
Yes. Yes.
And when I say this, when we say this, we are by no means justifying the violence that Putin is doing right now. As we
Yeah, that's
said,
very important to emphasize. Yeah.
yeah, multiple times we'll tell you that we cannot condone this. This cannot ever be a possible solution to anything.
Yeah, but the political situation is complex, yes. And especially for
Yeah,
people from the Western side, it's good to be aware of the decisions that our politicians are made. That's why we have a democracy.
exactly.
So, and it's good to be critical and to just not think that we are right just for the sake of being right, or our politicians. So it's good to analyze them and to understand what was done that could in the end cause or lead to this outcome. So we will probably add some extra information in the show notes, and then you can do your own research. We don't want to go further on this.
Right.
I think the political side will most probably end here.
Yeah.
And from this, I will just maybe focus on how we feel. So I think my first feeling was of helplessness. I felt like there is nothing I can do. What about you, Deba? What was your first response to this?
I was angry. I was just really angry at first. I couldn't believe that this was actually happening in today's day and age. We were just trying to figure out our way after this pandemic is kind of slightly going away a little bit. We had this hope that things will get back to normal. And yeah, and then this thing starts, right? Yeah, I was just really angry that this cannot be happening right now. This cannot be happening ever, but like, especially right now, it's really so unfair and stupid. And I don't know like what adjectives to use. Again, this is just the Russian state. It's the aggression of the state. Most people, most Russian people are not for this violence at all.
Yes.
Just thinking of all the countless lives that this will destroy, even if not destroy completely, but change forever.
Scar, yes.
Scar, yeah. Just overnight, just over a week, their lives would be completely changed. I don't know if they'll even be able to recognize their lives anymore. I don't know how people go through that. The last couple of days, I was just thinking that how do people go through their lives being completely uprooted and still live on?
Ananya, so you are actually out of Europe. Kind of interesting for us to know how much of this crisis got to India.
It's all over social media, right? And I follow quite a few journalists on social media, and they're all tweeting about it or posting about it. And it's like if you're reading anything anywhere, this is coming up. And even my parents, my mom especially, who usually does not like dabble with the news too much, even she seemed clearly very distressed. I think everyone is in a lot of shock. My friends and people I have spoken to, and it's very depressing seeing all those pictures of people hiding in subway underground areas, holding on to their pets, which really, really scared me because there was this picture of a girl who is sitting next to a carrier with her pet in it. And I remember how difficult it was to bring my cat legally in an airport where nothing is going wrong. So I can't even fathom what those people are going through. And Ginny agrees. I don't know if you can hear her.
Yeah, I heard the meow. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just baffling, I guess, at this point. Like, I mean, Deba knows there was a time in our childhood when there was a war, India was warring with Pakistan, and we have been in a state of war for a very, very long time, as long as I can remember, unfortunately. But state of war and actively war or invasion is completely different. Our lives were not really affected that much, except for what you see in the news, right?
Exactly, because when we were at war, the armies were fighting at the border.
Right, right.
Nobody was invading our city, thankfully. We
Exactly.
were
But
we were
even
just
then,
watching it.
on the news, yeah, yeah. And even then,
Yeah.
it was like, wow, this is something that's happening. And
Yeah.
it's just unfathomable.
And just to pick up from what you said with this animal and pet part, I always think about this like, yes, the human cost is always shown in media, and rightly so. I'm not taking away anything from that. It's just so many pets that get left behind. I always keep thinking about them. I'm like, they have nothing to do with this politics whatsoever. Why are
Yeah,
their lives hampered all of a sudden? I don't know. It's just like, yeah,
Yeah, if it helps anyway, in Austria there is a lot of shelters and stuff preparing support for the pets, actually thinking about the pets.
really? That's amazing.
So people thought about it like immediately, what I think is interesting.
that's nice. Yeah,
One thing I notice around the people around me is on Thursday and Friday, there was a lot of fear. If you think rationally, right, there is no reason to be afraid in Austria because it's not that the Russians will get here or anything, but there is a deep wounds of war in Europe. So people
right.
are really afraid of what will come, so they are being reminded of not so far away the Second World War, for example, and for some countries in the eastern sides what they went through when they were under the influence of the Soviet Union or even being part of the Soviet Union. There is this ghost, there is a lot of anxiety, a lot of
Yes.
fear.
Yeah. I don't think it's completely unreasonable because they had anticipated that the invasion would start from the east, but it is not only limited to the east, right? They are actually going down from Belarus as well. So it's also coming from the north. And there are certain areas of Ukraine which are being bombed by Russia, which is very, very close to Poland. And Poland, as we
Yes,
know,
that's true.
is a NATO state which is bound by this Article 5, which says that any aggression against Poland will be met with an aggression of the whole NATO force. And that is
Yeah.
very close. I'm sure that the Russian force also has this in their mind. But what if there is a stray missile? What if there's a mistake? And then it's not completely unreasonable to think that Europe as a whole could be on the brink of war as well.
Yes, so yeah, I agree with that. I'm just saying that the dimension or the amount of fear. But then I have to understand. So I come from a very fortunate background. So Portugal geographically is blessed, right? Kind of the opposite of
Right.
Ukraine
Yes.
completely. So
Yes.
we
Yeah.
were practically neutral during the two world wars. So there is no memory in my family of a war in the
Right.
continental part of Portugal. In a way, I look at these in a less bias, less emotional to the war because I don't have my grandparents telling me how their parents died in the concentration camps, like it happens with some friends of mine, or what my
Yeah.
grandparents had to do during communism and stuff like this. So I don't have this collective memory in me of what it is, to be at war and what it is to live in a state that oppresses you.
Right.
Although there was a dictatorship in Portugal, but is of different type than what happened in some parts of Eastern Europe.
Yeah. It's a different magnitude. Yes.
Exactly. So I could compare my reaction. I was afraid and I was anxious to the reaction of these people that are close to me, and they were completely frightened. They were like,
Mhm.
let's get out of here, let's. And it's understandable, right? Because they have all of these
Yeah.
experiences and this
Yeah.
is very close to them, like as you said, during all January there was this back and forth with Russia
Yeah.
to come to agreements, and I think in the back of everybody's head was like, oh yeah, Putin will not invade because why, like it didn't seem rational to us at that point.
Yeah.
So right now, every time I think something like that, oh, it will not be rational, then I'm like, oh wait, but that failed me before. So yeah.
Yeah.
I just
Yes.
want to, yeah, say that people that had some connection to Russia in the past, or this Second World War and these, they are way more. They are really anxious right now, and they're really fearful, and that's really hard to see. Yeah.
Yeah. So I would like to just mention one thing is that when you say that, like this rationality kind of failed you, I was also thinking on that line because there has been an ongoing tension. I don't know how much of that comes to Europe, but there has been an ongoing tension between China and India. And when this first started, I think 2 years back, I was actually quite frightened because China and India are not very close. We have fought a war before in 1962, I think, and the relations were not very good. And then, yeah, I will not get into like the political part of it, but there was a border conflict which lasted for around 3 or 4 months. And at that point, I was very scared, to be honest. And then after that as well, there has been like 4 or 5 different skirmishes where they were just fighting at the border, but like not really a full-fledged war. They were just like the troops were fighting among each other, and then it was sort of diplomatically resolved. And then in my head, I was going like, well, if this is all that it takes to start a war, then maybe my country will also go into war sometime soon. And exactly as you said, that maybe rationality will not prevail, and maybe it will fail me as well. So I also thought like that for a bit.
Me too, actually. That's exactly what I thought of. That it took so little to fight with China, and we have leaders right now. I guess we always had leaders who would rather resort to this kind of behavior.
Hmm.
That, yeah, it can happen. Yeah, it's like right now we may not care, but even though I am so far away from everything, I also panicked for a little bit because I thought, oh yeah, this can absolutely happen, because apparently it's a thing now that this can happen very easily.
Yeah, it's complicated. Geopolitics is very complicated, but yeah.
But I think maybe what we have at this time and age that we didn't have in the past is the information power. What's again being a bit against us as well, but people now are informed, So Russia cannot just do this without having all the world looking at them. And there was a strong public response
Hmm.
from both inside Russia and outside Russia. So just civilians saying this is not okay. We can do better than this. Hopefully, we know better nowadays than doing things like this. We'll see if this will be of any help. I want to believe that yes, right? Because as civilians, as people that are quite far away from all of these political agreements and political discussions, it's good to know that we can still have a voice, that we can still say to our politicians, like, what the hell? We don't want this. I don't know, maybe this will help. We'll see. So, what I'm really fearful for now is what will be the outcome. We are in a very sensitive situation, and whatever answer we get from European Union, from NATO, can open precedents. And I'm very anxious in that sense, right, to see what will happen, what will this all this situation lead to.
The problem I feel is that the Western world has kind of, pushed Ukraine into a conflict with Russia, but the Western world doesn't have the capability of standing up to Russia right now because, I mean, only thing they can do are sanctions. I'm pretty sure you have been following the amount of dependency that Europe has on Russia is crazy. The amount of oil and gas dependency, at least oil and gas
Yeah,
dependency that
we have an energetic dependency.
not
Yes.
only energy but also with certain elements like aluminum, nickel. I don't know how practical these sanctions are, how long these sanctions will go on, and what will they result in. And it's just sad that nothing better can be done to resolve this crisis right now. And there are actual lives at stake. actual homes, actual lives that are being uprooted, destroyed, and there is nothing much we can do other than saying, we will not trade with you, which is a bit, I don't know, trivial in my.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. This is very, yeah, tricky.
Yeah,
I don't even know what I would want them to do. I don't know. Again, I just know that what's happening is unfair, but unfortunately, it's not. I cannot come to them and say, "Oh, this is the
yeah.
solution," right? So
Yeah, so Bana, you in the beginning you said that you spoke to a couple of people who were from the old Soviet states, and do you want to share what they shared with you?
yeah, so as I said, I reached out to some of my friends, and I got two reactions that they allowed me to share in the program. So first, I have this friend. She's from Kazakhstan, and she has both Russian and Ukrainian ethnicity.
Mm-hmm.
So one thing that she tried to explain to me is that so in Kazakhstan, if you don't have the map in your head, so they were part of the Soviet Union and they have a shared border with Russia. And they said at some point there was many villages in Kazakhstan that were with only Ukrainians, but nowadays they are much more mixed in Kazakhstan. And what she emphasized is that both personal and ethnical connections are very mixed up with each other on the former Soviet Union territory.
Mm-hmm.
And this is something that's very important to understand, even about Ukraine. So Ukraine is made of different ethnicities, and some are closer to Russia. And yeah, this is very important. And then she told me that she was getting over the shock gradually. And now she's just thinking whether there is something she can do. That she has friends that live in Kiev and they are there with their parents and with a small baby.
Oh,
And she's worried. She calls this a tragedy. And then she adds that her mood was mostly nervous because in January of this year, there was some protests in Kazakhstan that turned violent. There were shootings. And the point is that in Kazakhstan, or at that point, the government in Kazakhstan was like pro Russia, and Russia
okay.
came to intervene in these protests. So all these countries that had a connection to Soviet Union start to be a bit afraid because of this rationality that we were talking, right? So some things seemed like that will never happen because don't make sense, and now maybe people start to be afraid that that's not the case. And then, so I got as well some words from my partner's family. So they are from Slovakia. Slovakia has a common border with Ukraine. And Slovakia was part of Czechoslovakia. That was like a communist state after, more or less, after the Second World War, that was supported by the Soviet Union. They do have their history with the Soviet
Mm-hmm.
Union. And what I got from their family is that they feel anxious, they feel insecure, and they're afraid. They are like continuously following the development since the beginning of the conflict, and I guess they mean since like December of last year, January, when the Russian troops, moved closer to the border of Ukraine.
Mm-hmm.
And they are right now evaluating how this conflict will affect their life, of both the family they have right now in Slovakia and abroad. So they have family in, for example, Czech Republic as well. And overall, they just feel great compassion to the civilian population of Ukraine. They are mostly worried with them, and they are worrisome for their future. And one thing I got in another instance from them before all this crisis blew up is that they see that there is a lot of Russian propaganda happening right now in Slovakia,
Okay.
and they are very worried about that. So Slovakia is right now a member of NATO, is a
Mm-hmm.
member of the European Union, but there is still ties. There is still people that think about the old communist times and how great it was back then.
Yeah.
So as I said, the one of the what I see, one of the big problem right now of this all this conflict is the level of anxiety. Any conflict like this really cuts through Europe. So I think this is important for somebody from outside to understand. From both of these people, one thing I got from them was the eagerness to help, to be active right now. After the shock, they are looking for ways to help the refugees mostly, right? And yeah.
Yeah, I think we should end this episode here. Should we do a recommendation this week?
So I will just recommend, if maybe you have somebody that's somehow affected by this, directly or
Mhm.
indirectly, just reach out, ask whether they're okay, offer your hand. I don't know. Just say, I'm here. And if you even just need to go for a walk, maybe just go drink a beer and think about something else. I'm here and we can talk.
Yeah.
This is what I read online. So apparently, it's by Martin Niemöller. He had some post-war words. He was from Germany, and I'm sure you guys have come across this. Probably everybody has. He's remembered for this quotation, which says, "First they came for the socialists, and I did not speak out because I was not a socialist. Then they came for the trade unionists, and I did not speak out because I was not a trade unionist. Then they came for the Jews, and I did not speak out because I was not a Jew. Then they came for me, and then there was no one left to speak for me."
Yeah.
Mm.
And I know this. Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's speak out. Let's, yeah.
Having said that, thank you guys for joining us this week. Things are not very good here in Europe, and let's hope that tomorrow is a better day than today. And thank you so much for listening to us. We will put some articles, some materials in the show notes where you can read a bit more about the crisis and the history behind it and make your own opinions about it. Also, we'll put down some charities that might help people in this crisis if you want to help out monetarily. Those links will also be linked in the show notes. Thanks again and stay safe, stay well.
And see you next week. We have a very interesting episode for you. So next week you can escape with us.
Bye
Bye.
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 I think I just want to finish by thanking both Ananya and Gogol. I came with this idea to them on Thursday. We had really few time to prepare these episodes. I'm so thankful that they were open and they are going to work extra hard to have this ready for you guys on time. Thank you guys, Gogol and Ananya. I think it's very important to speak out.
Yeah, this is our little way of helping whoever needs a little bit of help. Even if this makes you feel that you are not alone in this anxiety, then this is our way of doing that. And thanks to Anna for actually coming up with this and saying that we can do it.
And planning this episode. Also planning this episode.
Yeah,
Thanks a
planning
lot.
the whole thing, basically.